All righty, Whoosah Doula here. Our home birth topic continues as we dive deeper into 15 specific things that you can do if you're preparing for home birth. Yeah, the topic is, will you have a baby in your home, right? And if you do, you're going to make that decision because you feel more comfortable at home. And when you do, there's a lot of things that you have to do, and you're in the right place. If you are an expecting parent and you have any idea about wanting to have a home birth, these are very specific steps that we're going to give you today that you would need to do if you're preparing. Tyeanna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Terry, for having me on today. My name is Tyeanna Johnson, and I'm a childbirth educator and a doula, and I've had 4 home births in 3 different states. I have 5 children, and I love to work with women through pregnancy and beyond. And I think it's very important to have support during pregnancy and to feel confident in your choices. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah. We're going to bring more people from all over the world to talk about all things baby related. My name is Terry Wong. I'm based in New York, and I'm planning to meet all the coolest birth workers in all of America to talk about birth, because it is different everywhere you are. And I want to share with people the different ways that you can prepare for birth, right? You have options, and join my email list. We talk about all things birth related. If you find it interesting or you want to learn little tidbits here and there, just join my email list. And I love sending out gifts. It's my love language. Today we have Tyeanna here from Blissful Birth Support, and we just want you to feel peaceful, right? Happy, prepared for this wonderful life event that you're about to experience. This is a part 2 video where we dive deeper into the step-by-step things now that you need to do if you're going to set your home up for a home birth experience. I always like to touch upon how the U.S. healthcare system is a business, and all the things that you see there, it is so medicalized, right? Birth in a hospital is so medicalized. But today we're talking about the old ways, back in the day when everyone used to have their babies at home. So the first tips that we have here are during pre-pregnancy or during your pregnancy. These are things that you can start to do. Let's start with this one.
Okay, yeah. So number 1, just meeting and finding an available home birth midwife that you vibe with. We talked about this a little bit in our first video, just making sure that you have a midwife that has the same philosophies as you. And I like to point out that when you're interviewing your midwife, that you are asking questions, not like leading questions, but what is your philosophy on XYZ, instead of saying like, do you believe XYZ? And I would suggest that for any provider that you're going to see. So yeah, just finding someone that really resonates with you. Doing a home birth is a lot different than doing a like doctor interview. Usually you don't have the opportunity to interview a doctor. And usually, I mean, what you can expect to interview a midwife is they will usually come to your home and they'll sit on your couch and just chat with you like a friend. So it's not intimidating or anything. They're just going to sit and probably sip some tea with you for an hour or so. So it's really laid back.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, that makes it feel so much more less intimidating. I'm imagining like it's over the phone and you're like, do we vibe? I don't even know. Like, but you said it's just like over a cup of tea with a friend. That's sweet. That's lovely.
Okay, number 2, reading and educating yourself. A huge difference with midwives and OBs is a lot of times, and this is just generalizing, of course, but a lot of times an OB is more in a power situation where they're going to tell you they are the one in charge, and they're going to say, go get your ultrasound or go get your labs, or this is how I do things. Where with the midwife, it's going to be more, here are your options. You tell me what you want to do.
Oh, wow.
And they don't really give any information. It's just, you have to decide. And so if you don't know, especially as a first time mom, they will usually give you some resources. So read this birth book, or here's some information on GBS or newborn procedures, so they'll give you those resources, and then you get to make the decisions.
Oh, yeah. If you have a good provider, right? Like, I love the vast difference between, like, your experience with a midwife versus an OB. It would be so different. Like you mentioned, they're telling you, all right, this is your next appointment for this, that, and the third on your screenings. And meanwhile, midwife is telling you your options, right? That's such a wonderful approach. I love the importance of them sharing the resources too. Like, oh, you don't know? Okay, well, here, read this, and then you can make a better decision.
Right. Well, an OB is more like in their education. When we talk about their background, they are educated to make decisions in emergency situations. And so that is their specialty, is making decisions on the spot that's best for you. And so, there's just two different philosophies.
Yeah, they're like, this is how I've been taught. Always be prepared, and this is what you would do next. And you're like, okay.
Right.
Yes, yeah. Like you mentioned, the school of thoughts of how medicine works is usually only if there's an emergency, right? But in the US, midwives are not the first line of care for someone who's pregnant. It's automatically an OB, or and it's that sets the system up to continue to, use the hospital as a place to give birth, right? As the only place we believe that there is to give birth. And then the movies, right? And the movies make us believe that, okay, and in actual practice too, because of history, and we talk about that in other videos, racism, we were set up. The hospitals make a third of the money, so you can see that well, that's another topic.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so number 3 here, the fun and nitty-gritty parts where we talk about the tub, right? If you want to have a water birth, and you have to have a pump and a birth kit. What are these things?
Yeah. So, not everybody's going to have a water birth at a home birth, but it can be an option. Sometimes your midwife will have one you can rent. And sometimes you can just purchase a blow up tub if you want to on Amazon. Actually, they have like a birth tub in a box, and you can just buy one. And they're like $200 or something like that. And so your midwife will usually have a kit that they have at some online store, and then you just purchase it. So it's really easy. And then they'll usually have a list of things like get 10 towels and 10 washcloths and have some hydrogen peroxide. And so they'll have this list of things that they want you to have available and ready before your 38 weeks. So you'll have that list, and you'll be able to gather those things. A lot of them are things you already have at home. And the way I usually did it was have like a shower curtain. You put like your sheets on your bed, and then you put a shower curtain down, and then another thing of sheets over the top that you don't mind getting soiled. And so then if you have the baby on the bed, then you just take that off, and then you have a fresh bed already after the baby's born. So your midwife will usually have that all planned and let you know well in advance, like what kind of things you need to gather, because they kind of also have, a set way of doing things. And like one midwife had me put everything in a brown paper bag, and some of them just want it like on your baby changing table or something, so they'll each have their different ways.
Interesting. Yeah. It's nice that you'll have a list, right? And you mentioned a lot of those things are things you already have in your home, right? But you might need a few more, like 10 towels.
Yeah.
But yeah, the trick with the shower curtain on the bed and then the other sheet, you're just like, oh, I'm making it as easy as possible, right? To have this baby at home. Another.
Okay, number 4. You ready?
Yeah.
So keep yourself low risk through nutrition and exercise is so important. If you are high risk, then you usually can't have a home birth. I mean, can't as in a lot of midwives will lose their license if they're supporting someone high risk. And so they would refer you to an OB. It's not that you can still choose a home birth with someone that would support you. But of course, eating really well is so important, no matter what kind of birth you're having, and then staying active. Those kind of things are going to keep you low risk. And then also, if something does ever happen, if you fall or anything like that, you want to let your midwife know, just if there's any risks, they can let you know if you need to be transferred to a high risk, because that's their job too, is to be keeping an eye on you and making sure that all is going well. So
yeah. So, even in regular life, right, you're pregnant, you still need to take these steps to maintain not be high risk, like you mentioned, to have a low risk pregnancy and have no, we're talking about the sugar test, we're talking about the your blood pressure, we're talking about everything that they would measure. You need to be balanced for. So using nutrition and changing your diet, high protein, more fiber, walking, many things that you could just add into your daily life. We're not asking for anything crazy here, but be more active and be more attentive to your health and what you're putting into your body, what you're doing. Because as you mentioned, if you're high risk, you're going to not have the chance to have a home birth. So these are things that you need to start preparing your body for before you even plan for a home birth, right? Like, will it be an option for me? So if you can, for sure, obviously, if you can, birth is unpredictable and your body is going through different things, but those are the steps that we have to take. And another step here, if we have children or pets at home.
Yeah, I mean, deciding like, what are you going to do with your other children if you have children? Are you planning on having your baby at night, like planning because birth is unpredictable and they're just going to be sleeping, or is the dog going to be taking care of the baby? I love this little meme here; it's so cute. But yeah, just having a plan. There's no right or wrong answer there. A lot of people like to have their kids there for their home birth, which is a really great option. But if it's going to be stressful, if you have a toddler and they're going to want to be having you hold them a lot while you're in labor, just having someone, the neighbor coming over and just being with the toddler can be a lot of help. Someone that your toddler trusts and likes to be with is important. Or maybe you have your mom or in-law come. Yeah. And then, do you want the pets there when you're in labor? I mean, usually it's not that big of a deal, but some people like to have a plan for those things. So,
yeah. When the time comes, so you have to have these people on call ready, like you mentioned, someone close that can help watch your kid, like not just a stranger because you're not add on to your list of things to do, but have like a sibling doula. That's also a thing in some areas. But someone just to be attentive to your other children or pets at home. I thought so in even having a home birth, do you still have to do ultrasounds and labs?
So it is an option. I always did them, but it's not something that is required. A midwife isn't going to say, go get your 20-week ultrasound, so if that's something that you want to do, I think it's important to talk to your midwife and ask if they work with an OB. Sometimes they are really good partners with an OB depending on the area, and they can send all their clients there to get their ultrasounds and labs. A lot of times insurance will cover ultrasounds and labs through it, so you still have to go into the hospital or make an appointment. So it is a lot more work to have home birth if you're going to be doing this, because usually I would see an OB and see a midwife. And so early on, I would go in and make appointments with an OB. And then for my ultrasound, I would see them and get my labs done because my insurance paid for those. But, you don't even have to have an ultrasound. Like if all's going well and baby's doing great and there's no reason to get one, like that is an option. Everyone seems to do it nowadays, but think about it. 40 years ago, no one got ultrasounds unless it was for a high risk situation. And so they don't have a lot of research on how ultrasounds affect babies. And so just looking into that, is that something you want to do? And then your midwife can usually do labs. They will do like your GBS test, and they will either do like urine tests, to make sure that you don't have protein in your urine. So they're usually doing those things at home. But if you want to get any additional labs, just talk to your midwife about what they do. And then if you want to get additional ones, you may have to go into the hospital or see an OB to get those.
Yeah. It's good to know your options if you have an OB, or if you need the labs and you need a doctor to do them, then you could have those set up, right? It's, as you mentioned, it's in planning a home birth, you can decide, do I need all these different procedures done? Like, do I need the ultrasounds done that many times? Like, right. I think even just planning that ahead of like, okay, I think I'll wait till this time, and then it'll be good enough to know till birth, And then, as you mentioned, it's nice that the midwife would do the labs, because it's important I feel that when there are some medical things that can be done to help you prepare your body, or to check, as you mentioned, if there's protein in the urine, like, are you indicating other signs, right? These are medical interventions that we love to help identify if there's anything going on. But yeah, as minimal as this can be, I'm sure it's just to make sure, because there are common things that we test for, like you mentioned, like GBS, and just knowing that your status on these things while being pregnant is important. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned the GBS. Oh, we're talking about that right now. But yeah, GBS is interesting. Most of my midwives have said, in 40 years, we've never had an issue with GBS, but it can be very serious if your baby gets it. And so in a home birth, they usually have some kind of like vaginal cleanse that you will do. And so that's how they do it instead of doing antibiotics. And so that is something on top of your preparation that you would do if you're GBS positive. And of course you can say no to the test, but the reason they like you to do it is if you have a hospital transfer, they like to have a GBS negative in there. Otherwise they're going to put you on antibiotics automatically. So if you are positive, there's ways to handle that at home. And it's done in Europe all the time. They just use like a HIPAA cleanse type type thing. But there was something else I was going to mention, but I don't remember. So if I think of it, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, this is, if you test positive, this is just another step that medicine has allowed us to advantage, right? Have to our advantage. All right, you test positive, then you need to use this medicine. And I put this up here as a joke, like, isn't laughter the best medicine? Yeah, no, there's actual medicine to treat the exact issue that we have. So, and baby is also kept in mind, right? So what steps need to be made so that we don't transfer, reduce our likelihood of transferring to baby. And so these are just things that we're preparing for just in case, because it's quite common to, I think it's about, I don't know, but like 25% of people are testing positive, which is a fair amount of people that are being supported by the medicine that we have nowadays that you could get in advance if you test positive and and you're preparing for it. Because these next few steps here are things that you're going to use possibly during labor, right? As you're having your baby in the comfort of your home. If you like any of these things, comment, tell us like if they're working for you or if you've used them. So I like this one from One Piece, right? When do you gather your crew, like your team, to come to your home? How do you know, like, this is the moment? Please, I'm ready.
Yeah, a huge part of, a birth in general, especially if you're having a doula or something like that, is just communicating with your birth team. And one thing I love about home birth is that, I can contact my midwife at any time. I can text her in the middle of the night. I can call her. It's not like your doctor where you just, they come in and sweep in at the very end. And so they like to keep you, they like you to keep them informed. And so just letting them know, the first signs of labor, and they'll usually let you know kind of what their plan is, especially if, like, I had a midwife 2.5 hours away. So we had a plan that I would contact them pretty early, because they didn't want to miss the birth. And so, so just depending on like your situation, you want to communicate with your provider and, when do you want me to contact you? And then you have hired them. And so don't feel like, you can contact them at any time and let them know what's going on. Of course, you don't want to be like bombarding them with your life, but just keeping them informed, texting them and letting them know if you have any signs. And then most midwives love birth and they love being there. And so they're going to be with you through all of active labor. They're not just going to sweep in at the end, and they can help you with comfort measures and all of those wonderful things.
I love that you mentioned that they like love birth and they love this experience with you and want you to be so open about, how are you feeling now? Like what is happening? Like the vast difference again from a doctor, right? Any doctor experience in the US, they don't know you at all, right? They have 15 minutes with you and that's it. We'll give you a prescription or set a follow-up appointment. But with a midwife and for something so important like your birth, like you mentioned, this is your teammate. So don't feel shy about texting them in the middle of the night because you know like something hurts or like something's feeling odd. Like this is the people that you trust with your birth experience. And once you let them know like that you're ready to go, like if you have a doula, right, if you have a midwife, everybody's gonna let you know like how they're gonna be there to support you, and that's amazing. I think that's a wonderful teamwork experience. And then meanwhile,
yeah, we talked about water birth, and not everyone will do that, but having a plan for the tub, like some people will just do a baby pool, and then when they're done, they're like, oh, how do I get this water outside? Like, I didn't really think through that, or how do I keep it warm, and so, yeah, just keep it, you can get the tub full and then you use a hose to take it outside, but then keeping it warm, like, especially if you're getting in pretty early, you got to keep that tub warm so that the mom's body is at the right temperature and it's not freezing. And so just working through all of those, well, how do I deal with this? And of course your midwife's going to have a lot of those answers. If they work with water birth, they're going to know, all the process. I did think it's interesting that you talked about, the 15 minutes with your OB, because in a home birth, they usually spend an hour with you. They usually block out that time. They're going to come and sit down with you and answer all of your questions. I know for me, when I was seeing one in the hospital, it was like, do you have any questions? And they're just like looking at you and you're like, oh, they just all left my brain, right?
Uh-huh.
Where in a home birth, they're going to be, it's just so relaxed and you just have time to be thinking through, do I have any questions about my water tub, and by the time they leave, you've thought of all the things and worked through all those questions. So
yeah, I love that. Yeah, if you want to have a home birth, there's a few more steps in research that you have to take, right? As you mentioned, like the keeping the water warm, right? Because if you're using water also as a relaxation tool, like you might go in and out of this tub. But having like the big pots of water boiled on the stove, like these are the other things that you have to have your birth team be ready to support you in. As you mentioned, people who are experienced with using water, or like just having enough support, because you don't want to be worrying about these things and like, oh, the tub is cold, that I can't use it. Like if you thought to use your tub, like these are very necessary steps so that you're comfortable, right? The whole idea is for it to be a comfort measure to you and not another stress level, right? So if you do want to have a water birth, you have a few more things you need to prepare.
Exactly. Yeah. And then surrendering to labor. Of course, this is for any birth. Preparing your mind, because your mind's going to give out before your body does. And then knowing that you've done all the preparation that you can and just giving in to whatever happens. Just really trusting the process and then relying on your birth team to support you emotionally. If you've done all the work, and then that's all you can do is just trust the process. And if anything goes differently than planned, you've thought through those things, and you can work through things without trauma.
Yeah. Just knowing that this is a step for you to take, and to remind yourself that while you're in labor, while you're in birth, something that you can do is like release. This is a type of release that you give into your body, right? That you're like, with knowing, okay, for example, like knowing with each contraction, your baby is coming, right? Like these are the steps that it takes, and knowing that that's a part of it, the experience that you're going to have. You're going to feel more prepared and know that this is something that's helping my body grow and get through the experience of having a baby, and having, these are some affirmations that we're mentioning here, but like it's just positive things that to keep yourself motivated. Know that everything that's happening now is for baby to come, right?
Yeah. And this one here mentioning using affirmations, comfort measures, and your midwife's expertise. Something in your interview you might want to ask: do you do comfort measures? What do you do in labor? Do you use homeopathy? Do you, what are the specific things that you provide as far as comfort measures? Because your midwife is really there for emergencies and to, take down notes. And so if they're not going to provide those comfort measures, then consider having a doula or taking a childbirth education class where you learn those with your partner and they can provide those. A lot of things that I teach in my classes, I learned from my midwives. They just did them automatically in labor. They knew how to comfort me naturally. Wow. And so those things can really just take the edge off, and just help you to feel supported when you know that they're there to just work through it with you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, to know which comfort measures will work for you. Some can be as simple as touch, right? Like we're not talking about like the hip squeezes or like the but just some basic comfort measures that your partner or because you mentioned a doula can do if your midwife does not support you in those areas. Maybe some of them use essential oils or massager things, right? There are so many different ways, or even just talking with you, right? I think these are the things that will make you feel comfortable during your birth, and the more different options you have to get you through all the hours of labor that you might have. And a bonus, right? If you have a doula, that time can be reduced, right? So these are some good reasons to hire doulas. So now getting to after birth, what are the steps we have here? If you like these things, if you don't know that you need to do them, let us know. Right after birth. I really like this one.
Yeah, getting to know your baby. So it's completely different with a home birth than in the hospital. You know, there's not everyone rushing in and taking your baby and weighing them and, giving you Pitocin, all the things. It's just you and your family and your midwife. And it was kind of odd to me, actually, with my first home birth. It was like nothing's really happening. Like I'm just holding my baby and they're just, it's just nothing going on, like just peaceful. And I'm like, so do I nurse my baby now? And they're like, do whatever you want, And so it's just, everything, if mom's doing well and baby's doing well, this can look however you want it to look. And just taking that time to really get to know your baby and have that golden hour. And your midwife's not going to rush weighing them. They're going to give you a few hours and then they'll do the weighing and the measuring and all the things. And so just really enjoying, that's why you have a home birth. Like you can just, this after experience is just so, it can be so magical, and just be whatever, your pets can be there. I love this little dog here. You can have your pets and your kids there, and just, that new family experience can be just really, really great.
Yeah. It's such a highlight of having a home birth from what I'm hearing. It's like, because usually when after baby comes, there's like so many different things happening. But the way you explain it, you're just like, it's just you and your baby, and you guys are just like, your baby's just on you. And you don't feel rushed. I love that you don't feel rushed. Like, okay, when are they going to be done doing all the measuring and stuff? And then they give you back the baby. And like, even the golden hour, it goes by so quickly. And then they, have to do all their things that they do with the baby. So it's just like, it's a very short time that, in the hospital setting, but here at home, as you mentioned, the midwife is just letting you chill and relax with your baby sounds so beautiful, because it's an event that just happened for your baby too, right? So to feel so relaxed and to hear mama's heartbeat, I think that's such a beautiful experience, and that makes you feel rest and peaceful, after having a baby, I believe. So that's why I chose this one here, because now my baby is with me, like on this side, like Earth side. And then you're like, oh, you can just rest, right?
Right. Yeah.
Love that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So ROGAM, I don't know, ROGAM is something that I always had to deal with, because I am A positive. And if you don't have to have ROGAM, then you can just disregard this. But something you can do at a home birth, if you what is it called again? I forgot. It's not, so ROGAM is a shot, but it's when you are negative and your partner is positive blood type, then if your baby is positive, then that could interfere with another pregnancy. And so you would have to take ROGAM. Not have to, actually. ROGAM is a blood product, and so that is something you might want to look into. Is that something that you want to take? Because that would be a shot that you would get after birth if your baby's blood type is different than you. And sometimes they will stick the baby, but you can just get an Eldon card, and they just use the umbilical cord blood and just put that on the Eldon card, and that will show what the baby's blood type is. Oh. And so they don't have to stick the baby. And so then that would be your responsibility to make sure your midwife has ROGAM, or you can also go into the hospital and get ROGAM. And like I said, I would do your own research on that and see if that's something that, if I vibes with you. So.
Yeah, if you're eligible, right? If you're a positive blood type, this is another step that you need to take to prepare for right after birth. And so if you know in advance this is your blood type, this is just another step that you can decide to take to prepare for your home birth. Because if you don't have it, it's not something you can use. But I love that this uses the blood from the cord so that you don't have to prick baby. Yeah, because you're like, I'm having a home birth. You're like, okay, here you go. This is the home birth version. Baby doesn't get pricked.
And that's called RH negative. I just remember what that's called. I'm like, how do I not remember what this is? But RH negative is what that is.
Okay. RH negative. Yeah. And these are the tools that we have. As you mentioned, they're easily accessible if you need access to them. You just have to plan it in advance. This is after birth. And then after birth, the newborn procedures that come with every birth, just to check all the boxes for a baby, and your provider will do that for you in the comfort of your home and weigh the baby, all the different measure the baby, all the different things that everybody's going to want to know. And this final step here.
Yeah, so birth certificate, your midwife will usually submit the birth certificate for you. So another positive of home birth is you don't have to pick their name right away. They can give you time to pick a name, a few days, a week.
Wow.
And then you just have to submit that paperwork to your midwife, and they will send that in and submit for the Social Security card and birth certificate. You just want to make sure that that is something your midwife does. If not, they will usually give you step ABC to do that. And then also, usually in the hospital, they will do like an ear test, a hearing test. So that's on you if you want to go in and do that. Usually midwives don't do that because they don't have the machinery. So all of those things it does make it a lot more work as a home birth parent, but a lot of the things are also not necessary. And so like, if you don't want to deal with all the labs and everything, you don't have to. But if you do, it can be a little bit more work, but I feel like it also empowers you. And now you know the process, and you don't have to worry or wonder, what do I do next? You've done all of the legwork, you know the steps, and it's just really powerful. Yeah,
it's wonderful. As you mentioned, as you keep preparing for home births, you have gained so much expertise in like, this is how it was done last time, and this is how it's done this time. And in all those different home birth experiences that you've had, which is so amazing. As a mama of 5, like it's so amazing that you've had so many of those birth experiences at home. I think that, as you mentioned, like when people know that it's an option, these are the steps that you need to take. Some of it might seem like more or less, but like in looking at it all, like compared to a hospital setting, there's to me, it's not that many steps because I used to be a social worker. So I feel like, that's just paperwork, like getting labs, sounds, but like really researching and learning about, what do I need to do and when do I need to do it, and how I need to do it if I'm doing it by myself. Like this, all we talked about today is like preparing. Because in the beginning, it might feel like, I can't do this. Like it's like planning a wedding, right? But it's actually very possible that you do. And as you start to take the steps, right, and introduce yourself to more people, because as you mentioned, like we mentioned in the other video, you think it's not that easy to have a home birth. Like the networking involved in finding a provider that vibes with you is like the hardest part in the beginning, right? To find someone that vibes with you. But like as you research the different options that you have in birth, I hope you feel less lost and know what your options are. in doing this research and planning for your home birth, so that you can start preparing all the other things that you need for your home. As we mentioned, like we laid it out today in like before birth, like during your pregnancy, like, and then after birth. There's so many different areas that you need to prepare. So if you learned something new today about planning home births, tell us in the comments, what did you learn? Like, did you already know this? Who did you hear from? Like, we talked about filling the tub and keeping it warm. If you haven't been there, I don't think you would know what a water birth is like, right? So being prepared, knowing the experts that you need on your team, because the U.S. healthcare system is a business and it runs like a business. So if you want to choose different medical interventions that work for you, I'm all for it. I'm not against hospitals, but I feel like in watching these videos and learning about home birth, you're taking steps to educate yourself about how birth really works in the U.S. And I love bringing on my friends like Tyeanna here, who have helped their community so much, because birth work is hard. We are working against a big system here, and it's uncommon to have home birth. So I love this quote that I found on her Instagram. Find Tyeanna here at Tyeanna Johnson Birth Educator on Instagram. So the quote is, "One cannot actively help a woman give birth. The goal is to avoid disturbing her unnecessarily," right? This quote is so lovely. And as doulas, this is the work that we love to do, and helping you, whether you want a home birth or you're going to have a hospital birth, either way, I hope that you find your team that's going to support you in having the birth that you want to have. There's a lot of resources that we have here, and I'm going to link all of Tyeanna's things in the comments below. So just know that whether if you want to have a home birth, right, the steps that we mentioned today, you can start preparing if you want to have a home birth, right? So we're nearing the end, and I want to remind you that it might seem overwhelming, all the things that we talked about today, but you don't have to do it all in one day. We just wanted to give you a snapshot of what it's like, so that you could be more prepared and make decisions in your own birth. Let us know your birth story or your current experience, or how you want your experience to be. We have a community and we want to hear from you. So thank you, Tyeanna here. We love having you here on the baby expert side for our podcast. So I can't wait to talk with so many different other topics other than home birth, because you are amazing and you do so much different things in birth work. I can't wait to have more videos with you. So everyone, thank you. Have a good time.
Thank you, Terry.